What's up, everybody, and welcome into this breaking news edition of Good Karma Wrestling, along with Brian Rowards from ESPN West Palm. I'm Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000. We are here in the lobby of the Hyatt here at Schaumburg for StarCast. The reason why we're here is because of StarCast, and you'll be able to hear some of our interviews that we've had and a great time here at StarCast. But we're here for another reason. We're breaking down. We're going to go to the car and go back to Brian's hotel. And all of a sudden we got breaking news that Phil Brooks, CM Punk, is no longer with All Elite Wrestling.
Yep. Literally, we were about halfway through the door. Right. We were right there. The car was there.
Said hello to Sonny Ono. He was just walking by. Demolition was leaving. They had their rolling bag.
The face paint was off already.
Yeah.
Everyone's done. Like, StarCast is done for the day. People are at the bar. I was looking forward to pizza.
Yeah.
And then AEW sent out a press release. Not CM Punk, but Phil Brooks. No longer a member of AEW.
So let's review that because you saw it first. I was just looking for a sandwich. I haven't eaten all day, if you can believe that. I was looking for a sandwich at the Starbucks, and all of a sudden he said, oh, by the way, Phil Brooks has been fired.
And that's it. We have no service down there. So a buddy had texted me this link, and here it goes. All Elite Wrestling has terminated the wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, and not even Phil, and parentheses CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and Head of Creative of AEW. The termination follows a week-long internal investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All In London on Sunday, August 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk be terminated with cause. And in this statement from Tony Khan, Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contributions. The termination of his AEW contract with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish I didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I am making the decision in the best interest of the many amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world.
It's too bad that CM Punk and Colt Cabana aren't friends, because this is the podcast I want to hear.
Yes.
Just like the old WWE Sour Grapes one. I like to get the 2 or 3 hour version of his thoughts on AEW. Well, I'll give you my reaction, my friend. It's about time that Tony Khan was a leader.
Sure.
And because this is something that we've criticized him about before, is the juice worth the squeeze? And the answer is no. The juice is not worth the squeeze. Now, I know that you and our partner Gabe, that's usually on our program every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, for Good Karma Wrestling, talks about, well, you know, the importance of CM Punk and that they built a collision show around him and all this kind of stuff. Hey, man, no one's greater than the company. And so when we talk about leaders, this is the reason why I push Jericho so much, because Jericho, Samoa Joe, guys like that, they are the adults in the room. For CM Punk on the biggest night of AEW to pick a fight or be involved in some kind of skirmish or some issue with Jack Perry, for him to be able to do that showed me that he's not all in, to use a phrase. He's not.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Punk is the veteran in this situation. Like, if there's an incident, if you're upset with someone, fighting is not the issue, to where legal counsel needs to be involved again. Like, it was involved a year ago with Brawl Out and all that sort of stuff. Like, he acts like a child. I don't get it, why he has to take this company down. And, like, Tony eventually, it was put up for shut-up time, and now CM Punk no longer a part of AEW.
But the prevailing thought for some would be like, well, AEW is in the mud and it's going to fall. It's not going to fall apart. It's not. Because he was just one piece, right? Not a very controversial piece. Tony Khan had to talk CM Punk into coming back to wrestling after 7 or 8 years. I mean, he kept talking to him for over, I think he said over a year.
Yeah, it was a while.
So to even come back to wrestling. From CM Punk's standpoint, Brian, what it came down to is, I'm coming back as a leader. Real world champion, carrying the company that way. That's beside the point. He was an older guy, was trying to be able to lead younger wrestlers. And here's the thing that I think he understands now. He can only do so much. Right? If Jack Perry said, I want to use real glass, and CM Punk said, that's not a good idea. Actually, CM Punk's right. But ultimately, he's not the boss. He's not the authority. It's Tony Khan. And so even though you've got veterans like Mark Henry and Arn Anderson and Dean Malenko and so many guys in the back, ultimately it's up to Tony Khan to make the ultimate decision. Finally, this is the biggest decision he's made with AEW, a grown-up decision that says, you know what? We don't need this drama in our locker room anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even think of another decision like this. Like, yes, he suspended everyone last year, and they went about their ways that time, but to fire someone like this would, I imagine, be the first firing in AEW history. Like, they are very big on, some people when they leave, there's some sour grapes because, hey, there's no communication.
Right.
But ultimately, those guys and girls, their contracts are just running out. This might be the first time he's actually fired someone. And, yes, it's not enough of the headache. You don't know when you're going to get CM Punk from a health standpoint. This run, knock on wood, he was healthy. But, and to do it now in Chicago, before a Chicago show that most people are down on already, it obviously says that, hey, good on Tony, but enough was enough.
I told you at the end of our Good Karma Wrestling show on Thursday that when I was at the Now Arena in Hoffman Estates, there was not one CM Punk chant.
Yeah.
Now, maybe because the fans are smart and they thought, well, they would see him on Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
So let me just tell you, because you're here in Schaumburg, there is a difference between Hoffman Estates and Chicago.
Okay.
United Center, there should be CM Punk chants on Collision and definitely on Sunday for All Out, because whatever you think of CM Punk, he's this town's hero.
Yeah. And
this is why we had Sky Blue on, because we believe that she is a hero of Chicago now, because she's the one, right? But I guess what we need to talk about just briefly here is about CM Punk's run. So he comes out, and I was there the night that he was introduced, and it was goosebumps because he's been away for a while. It was the worst kept secret in the business. We knew he was coming out. And I have never heard a roar like that, a sustained roar. Over 19,000 people in the United Center. I've been to Bulls games and Hawks games in that building. Nothing like that, right? Brian, it was huge. People loved it. Okay, so from there, I thought he was going to be kept special, where we'd see him every now and then. He was out there every week wrestling, and I think that was the wrong thing to do. He becomes heavyweight champion. He gets injured. They had to take the belt off of him. There was frustration there. He wins the championship again, and then he's there with pastries and bitching about the business and bitching about Hangman Page with pastries. I've never seen that before. Someone with a bear claw in his gullet going back and forth and talking about how he was mad at the Young Bucks and Hangman Page. And again, this, if it's UFC, we can understand.
Sure.
But when it's professional wrestling, when you blur the lines, that's not bringing more people in. No. It confuses the audience. And you don't want to confuse the marketplace. So we always know CM Punk's a shooter. Even WWE is kind of a quasi-shooter, right? But that kind of, I think that kind of rhetoric and that feeling kind of bit him in the ass in the end, didn't it?
100%. And that's the thing. We always hear, oh, damn young people and the way they take in things. They don't want to deal with him. And, I brought it up last week when we talked with Jake Roberts. He's like, oh, some guys just want to be by themselves. And Jake, being the mature guy, is like, all right, so I just let them be by themselves.
Sure.
Whereas Punk seems like, oh, they want to be by themselves. Oh, that must be a slight against me. It's no, it's just who they are. They don't want to chat with you. They don't have to listen to you. Yes, he was held in high regard, but he wasn't management. He wasn't an EVP like some of those other guys. And in talking about his run, it was a good run. The return was amazing. There were memorable feuds. The MJF stuff was awesome. But overall, it was a disappointment because he was out more than he was in, which is the disappointing part.
Yes, and not just the injuries,
right?
But just in and out of the company and that kind of stuff, and being petulant. Look, when you go back, and people put this up all the time on our social media, right? These old Triple H and CM Punk promo sessions. God, it's almost like Triple H was shooting with us.
Yeah.
It's oh, you always want things your way. Yeah, you are a martyr and all this kind of stuff, right? I know that they were working, but there was a lot of shooting that as well. And so the question will be now, do you expect to see CM Punk pop up in WWE as a special attraction?
Yes, because I think if you're Hunter, you can say, hey, this is one-off. I'm not going to have him here for months. He's not going to corrupt this locker room. You do it one, maybe two times, and even the build-up, it's only a week or two. You can't trust him for months of build-up. He's not Cena in that regard. Yeah. But I think Triple H, it comes down to business. CM Punk's going to put butts in the seats. He's going to get eyes on your product. We'll see him there once or twice.
I guess so. But, going back to what CM Punk said to Colt Cabana, just this whole thing where Triple H was a pain in his ass, and he was a problem, and Vince was a problem, and the doctor was a problem. Now, it's professional wrestling. Right. Anything can happen.
Right.
So, but just...
But that's the CM Punk thing. I forgot who tweeted it. It was after Brawl Out. But, CM Punk's the guy. He's like, oh, I ran into this asshole at breakfast, and at lunch, like, oh, I ran into this asshole at lunch. Like, oh, I ran into this asshole at dinner. It's like, you know what? You might be the asshole here. Like, but CM Punk doesn't realize that.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, there are WWE issues, but now you have AEW issues also. So it might start to fall on old Philip there.
I guess. So, failed in MMA. At least he tried.
Yeah.
He's more of a man than I would, because I wouldn't be in that cage. But he still is an announcer for MMA, the lower level. Probably your area.
Yeah, probably, yes.
But he's still an announcer there, so he still dabbles in that as a color analyst. And I don't know what else is there for him. Like, I'm sure the indies are burning his phone up right now, saying, "Come on in." And you know what? He would do indie shots.
Sure.
He could do exactly what Matt Cardona's doing. Now, how much money he'd make yet? But I mean, his price could be amazing, right? One-offs against the top indie talent.
Sure.
Would you not pay for it? The James L. Knight Center in Miami to see CM Punk and Matt Cardona?
Yes,
top
let's
of the
go.
card?
I'm good to go with that, 100%.
So I guess our prediction would be, like, he's not done.
Right.
Look for him for GCW.
Yeah, and that's it. He seems to love pro wrestling. Like, it was this week, he was at the Cauliflower Club. And all those pictures about him just loving wrestling and respecting wrestling. But yet somehow he keeps shooting himself in the foot, and that's why we are where we are today.
So I would say, as we wrap this up, I think that for him, Brian, if he's going to be an indie guy, and again, as we well know, you can be able to do so much on the indies and make a lot of money, right?
Yes.
So whatever his asking price is, he could take on a veteran talent or a young talent and not worry about the locker room, because he's off to the next town.
Correct, yes.
If you want to do that.
Right.
I mean, even Moxley, who has an AEW contract, was just in AAW. Yeah. Did you see that video? It's at GKW_wrestling if you missed it. He just pops up like, what are you doing here in front of 100 people? Right? I think that's Midwestern. I think it's Chicago.
I already know where they are.
I think it's Chicago, I think.
Okay, I've never even heard of them.
Yeah, and so he just pops up. Lights go off, lights go on. Here's Moxley. What are you doing here? Don't you have a wife and kid? No.
But that's the crazy part. Like, we talk about Mox a lot. Mox is a guy with skewers sticking out of his head.
Yep.
But he's the mature leader of that company. Like, I saw the graphic going around. Every time Punk's been kicked off a card, essentially, it's Punk that fills in, or it's Mox that fills in.
Yeah.
Including tomorrow night, like, him and Orange, it's probably because it was supposed to be Punk main eventing. Like, Mox is the leader of that locker room. He doesn't want to take a vacation. And, like, that guy is the mature guy that, like, young guys want to follow.
That was supposed to be CM Punk against Ricky Starks. That's supposed to be the main event. If not Collision, then All Out.
Sure.
And I'm not. But it was a main event from what I was told.
As it should have been. Like, that's what they were building towards. It sucks that Ricky Starks essentially gets stunted by all this, and maybe he does something with Steamboat. But, like, yes, they were building towards that. We're in Chicago, and now we get an international title. I don't even remember the name half the time.
The international.
Yes. The Orange Cassidy title.
The Orange Cassidy title. He's the damnedest wrestler that we have right now. He's a workhorse. So there you have it. CM Punk, again, if you're just joining us, CM Punk no longer part of All Elite Wrestling.
Crazy.
That is amazing news. And it's not the news that we expected as we were walking out saying hello to Sonny Ono from WCW. But you know, but this is what makes wrestling interesting.
Yep.
Because Tony Khan could have easily said, you know what, we're just going to suspend you for a while, we'll work this out. But it's enough of the working out. It's enough, right? Even if CM Punk felt like, I'm doing what's best for the boys and the girls, I'm doing what's best for the business. Look, just trying not to betray any trust here. There are a number of wrestlers that are in the back that are veteran wrestlers that have talked to young wrestlers about certain things that they shouldn't do. Not the old grab a hold headlock thing. No, just talking about just certain things for them, for their welfare, so they can be able to last longer in the business.
Sure.
And if you're an indie-fed wrestler and that's what you've learned and you're not trying to learn anything else, this is what you get.
Right.
Mistakes in the ring or get seriously hurt and all this stuff. No, man, I want to be Mance Warner. No, man, I want to be Jeff and Matt Hardy. No, man, I want to be Joey Janela, and that's fine, but it's about longevity in the business. And so some of the young wrestlers don't know that. And I think that CM Punk tried to impart that wisdom, but, you know, some don't want to hear it. If they don't want to hear it, what else can you do?
Right, move on. I mean, Blue Meanie, one of the conversations you'll hear that we recorded here at StarCast, he said, like, he enjoys giving that wisdom to young wrestlers to those that want to listen.
Yeah.
Like, you can't force it upon people, and that seems to be Punk's issue. It's like, why are they not listening to me? It's like, because they don't have to.
Yeah.
But here we are, and now you're unemployed.
So there you have it. CM Punk no longer with the company, and as Brian is telling everybody, is reporting first. He will be at the next GCW homecoming.
Yeah, why not? Let's go.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have no problem with that. It's because they're one-offs. And you know what?
Right.
For him, if he really does love the business, as you say he does, the one-offs will be fine.
Him and Lash LaRue, he's trying to get some work.
Lash LaRue, that's fine. Lash LaRue. I mean, the old WCW burnout.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean, so I just, it's a damn shame it happened in this city.
Yep.
In Chicago.
And that it did. So that crowd's going to be interesting tonight and tomorrow. Like, already sort of lackluster cards, but the CM Punk era is over.
So keep it here, right here for Good Karma Wrestling, available on YouTube and, of course, on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Good Karma Wrestling. And follow along the news. The news is still out there, GKW_wrestling for Good Karma Wrestling. For Brian, I'm Jonathan with this special report from the lobby here at the Hyatt Regency in Schaumburg for StarCast.